All right. So, been a while. I haven't done an episode in about 3 or 4 weeks. So this will be a fun one. Today we got Chris Ripoll. We're going to hear what he's all about and what FirstOps Seamer Service is all about. You know, he's, he's from Texas. We're from Texas. Grew up in Galveston. Went to Blaine College in Brenham. Still living in Texas today. So for the group, Seamer Service, Seamer background, cans, that's this guy's career. For the most part, in high-speed can manufacturing. A bit of a vet in that space. He started his career, bartending, owned a jet ski business, wave runner business. That's pretty cool. You know what? When I was growing up in high school, that's what I did in high school. My dad owned a lake resort on Lake Buchanan. And it was like 11 cottages, and we rented boats, and we had a few different sets of wave runners. I got to ask, did you ever have someone that tore it up so bad that the security deposit wouldn't cover it?
I wouldn't say so bad it wouldn't cover it, because we had one of our good friends. He did a lot of Bondo work there, being from Galveston. So we knew guys that
There you
did that.
go.
And it didn't take us long to do some Bondo work and get it dropped back in the water again and
Nice.
start generating revenue for us.
The Bondo's where it's at with the jet ski and rentals, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, onto that, you went on to Crown Cork and Seal for your next means of employment, and that was a huge stint of 25 years. For the group, Crown Cork and Seal makes aluminum cans, really cool, pretty complex, super fast with lightweighting cans over the years. It is definitely a sense of urgency type of business. Then jumped over to Bevcor, and Bevcor makes machines that fill those cans and bottles. A primary player in the carbonated soft drink filling space with fillers, blenders, and as of late, seamers. Now, what you're doing, you created and operate an independent seamer service business called FirstOps. And I have a love-hate relationship with high-speed can manufacturing, as I'm sure you have a little bit of that too, but we'll get into that in a bit. I think there will be a few themes today. One's going to be customer service, 2, sense of urgency, and 3, relationships. Hobbies, you like to golf, play pickleball, and training. So that's the intro for Chris today. But as I do on all these episodes, I got a few memories I got to hit. These 4 folks partnered with you, be it Crown or being at Bevcor as a supporting service type of role for these, beverage manufacturing leadership. So first one's Ivan Ollier. He was one of my guests already on this podcast. I remember one time that we had a wrinkles in Miami, and everyone had to look at it. We couldn't figure it out. At some point, you sent out a Seamer service tech, filler tech, couldn't figure it out. And then you send this guy named Pablo. And puff, he figures it out, like in 1 hour. I can imagine, that whole troubleshooting process from when the issue started to when it was done was probably more than a day, probably a couple of days, maybe even a week. But I thought that was a cool thing that he remembered that stood out. And he was like, Chris, you're giving me a discount for the miss on your guys. And ever since then, y'all have had a pretty fair relationship. So.
Well, true statement. I do recall that. And Ivan was a unique location, like some of the other KDP locations. He did size changes, diameter size changes. And so that was probably the toughest thing in the industry is really repeatability, is being able to do these changeovers and get out of these wrinkles. And it's really difficult for the filling locations. And I'll be honest with you, to put it in layman terms, kind of like being a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, because we brought something new for these 30, 40-year-old machines to try to
modernize.
Yes, and that was the challenge. But since then, he now has quick change parts, and they don't run into that. They don't have that issue any longer. So, but that's
True.
a good memory, and he's correct.
Yeah, I had those too, and we'll get to that because that's one of my memories. Um, so next one, Rolando De Leon. So he ran through the can lines in the Irving Dr. Pepper plant back, I think, 2016 to 19. I'm probably missing on those years, but those can lines were screamers, like big volume, running all the time. One of them for the group, when we're talking about speed, think about 1,400 cans per minute. One of those fillers and seamers did that. Typical one's around 1,200, but um, anyways. Um, so Rolando said, I believe our working relationship strengthened when he was working even for Bevcor. Because before that, you were with Crown and still working in that plant, working with Rolando during that time. His professionalism, talking about you, and genuine customer service approach made me feel like that he was there for us to help resolve any kind of mechanical issues, even that we're having with one of the seamers. His leadership and urgency to respond were great attributes that I can remember a lot about Chris. He had a strong customer relationship and created trust. He didn't let me down. And up to this day, I remember him and I'm very grateful to have him. So,
Very nice comments by Rolando, and I can't say enough good things about Rolando. He's one of those guys. If I was to use a term, it would be clone. Because if I could have about 10 of Rolando's, I would love to be able to clone him 10 times. He's a hard worker, um, doesn't complain a lot, and again is just uh, was always attentive and was willing to learn as well. So he was excellent to work for. So miss working with Orlando. Hopefully we can cross paths again and meet up.
yeah, I definitely respected Rolando as well. He was one of my peers there at that plant at the time. Let's see. So next one's Freddie. So Freddie was a director of operations, ran half of that plant down there, 5 of the 10 lines. He said so many good memories of support from Chris. He'd pick up the phone in the middle of the night and action things to help. Not a lot of people would do that. Talking about you. If I would go to war, Chris would be part of my support team. So
Appreciate those comments by Federico as well. He was a good man. He was again. There was a point in time, and it's not to say that they don't now, because I enjoy working with a lot of the people there currently at KDP. But they had a strong team that was willing to. Uh, they were after results inside those facilities, and he was one of them. They hustled. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how those guys did it all the time. It's hard to nail them down just to sit them down in a meeting for 10 or 15 minutes. Just always something going on. But again, Federico was one of those that I'd get in the trenches with as well.
awesome. All right, last one, Sean Davies. He was the plant manager of that plant for a while. Grew his scope up to regional vice president over 7 of those plants. Another previous guest with Freddie on the Huddle number 3 episode. He said, I met Chris when I started on the CSD side of the business. So CSD, carbonated soft drinks, versus DSD, a little more complex part of that business. Probably the first vendor I can recall that genuinely wanted to support and educate me on can process versus sell me more cans. Learned a ton from him and owe part of my success to his investment in me. As a partner, he took ownership of my problems as if it was our problems. Dude always answers the phone. He would find you support at midnight on a Saturday, confident in saying my most trusted vendor when I needed him, which is huge because, for those that don't know, like in canning and bottling, like those seconds and minutes, they matter and they add up real quick. So Chris and I built a friendship outside of work because of our trust of each other. Lots of good memories. And there was you two guys went on a golf trip once.
Yeah, we did.
In the middle of the night, you got lost and maybe you went into the hallway looking for the bathroom, maybe.
I don't know if I'm going to elaborate on that one.
Well, we can cut this one out. I just had to put that in there.
It was definitely it was a boys' trip, and that we probably a little bit too much libation
Yeah, I got you. Uh,
on a golf trip.
yeah. He said, I suck at golf. Chris knows this. Um, and to remind you that he's
Yeah,
still waiting.
we had to pay a bill to the golf course at the end because he tore it up so bad.
Oh,
We had
goodness.
to they had to replace grass everywhere after Sean left.
Nice. I don't think I've ever heard of that happening. So that's definitely unique.
Right.
He said, remind him I'm still waiting on that boat ride.
That boat ride. Yeah, the boat ride. That's the ultimate plan here. That's the exit plan later on. Is getting out on that boat and just go fishing and then try to enjoy life. But can't
That's what I'm talking
say,
about.
Tony. Out of all the guys you just mentioned there, I can't say I thoroughly enjoyed working with all of them. Sean's very intelligent, a very smart man. Uh, he he definitely was a difference maker, a solution provider. He was willing to roll his sleeves up and get out there in the trenches with his team as well. He was a very active director and VP. And again, he taught me the business from the standpoint. That's where it made me understand y'all's business a lot better and how critical it was that we took care of your assets, or you didn't have any kind of allocation issues, late loads and cans coming in and things like that. So yeah, he was. I would say Sean, and like he said on a personal level, he was a friend also. But it never confused his kindness for weakness because he was the business. I would say my friendship and his business came first, but again, I never would challenge or try to take advantage or capitalize off of that because I had a lot of respect for Sean for for all of his facilities. So
Yep.
good man, good man.
Yeah, that's awesome. I uh, I gotta jump into a few of my own now. So because I've been with Dr. Pepper for 8 years. 4.5 of that was as the plant manager in the Louisville plant, and I had one can line, one bottle line. So it's a pretty small operation. I ran 3 shifts. Pumped had pretty good ratio on volume to square footage, and 2 lines. But I would say that I'm going to go back to the quick change and that whole project and how beneficial that was. I think we started off. I mean, we'd had you talked about flexible can changes going in and out of a 7.5 can into a 12 or 16 ounce can on a standard Bevcor 72 valve, and we had a Angelus 121. It was around 6 hours. Sometimes it was 8 to do that change. And when you're on 3 shifts, that's a whole shift.
Hmm.
So it doesn't make sense to run 3 shifts, right?
Sure.
But that vision of getting there and actually, putting the rubber to the pavement, we took it down to a 45-minute change. And that was, part of that was process, but a lot of it was that design and that quick change. So that was pretty awesome. And I think it may have been one of the best changeover times in the industry, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
that's one of those like pride quivers in my head, I guess. I always thought that was really neat how those guys could do that.
Yeah, it was, and I'll tell you, that that whole project came to fruition. And the inception of the project started at ADP Irving. We had a Kaizen event with y'all CI team basically, and um, we had we took the idea and we took the concept, and it took us several years to get there. We also accomplished a lot of other things that your team was tracking for us at the time that you were tracking for us from it was called what, CamGate, less jams. You were seeing reduction in either dissolved oxygen, or you could have taken the DO savings, reduction of CO2. So we realized from the gas insert that we were able to, uh, we weren't expelling so much CO2 in the atmosphere and was capturing more in the can, so we can get either the lower DOs or whatever, or the savings. So a lot of advantages, and I would tell you that was probably one of the. So it was. I would agree with you, Tony. That's
Yeah.
it brought the one of the oldest, it is the oldest seamer, 120 and the 121 high-speed seamers. It brought them back to life, is what it did.
Yeah.
And
I would say, my mechanics, my guys were at first, going through that whole pilot and trial and error. There were some frustrations in it, right?
right.
You don't ever get it right the first time. If they did, then Elon Musk's first rocket would have gone out without any explosions, right? And have been shaped the right way. But after it was all said and done, I mean, the ergonomics were way better. The time was better. So they're working on other things versus doing that. Tend to other things as, the changeover, what took 8 hours. If the other line had a big issue, they got one person had to peel off, and it was a big benefit. So, also, want to just kind of repeat the whole thing, like, hey, call you anytime. Always open to really support from a customer service standpoint. I was able to shoot you a picture of a can, for example. Hey, what do you think? Can or machine? And whatever you recommended, it usually cut down our troubleshooting time by at least 50%, maybe even 80%. And it wasn't just, it's the machine. It's, hey, it's the machine. And I would look at these 2 or 3 things. So pretty cool stuff. And, yeah.
I would say to that is that, to a lot of the audience out there, and that's something I stress all the time, is that, that process doesn't change. And so it's really simple. When you used to send me things like that, Tony, and again, I appreciate the kind words, but it's, some of my everybody asks me when what do you cringe at the most when you walk into these facilities? Well, there's a lot of things I can cringe at, but one thing that always makes me nervous is when I see a mechanic walking around with wrenches in his back pocket, because we're always quick to make adjustments on this equipment rather than, looking at our raw material coming in and things like that.
What changed?
Changed all of a sudden and now we're starting to turn wrenches on our filler and our rails and our seamer, and next thing you know, we're all over the place and we've lost control.
That's one of those human instincts things. It's like, something's wrong. I gotta fix it. Like, all right, take a step back. All right, what changed? Did we just do a changeover? No. Was it doing on the last package? No. Did we change cans? Did we change flavors? We changed a lot. So whatever it was. And I always try and go back to that first.
Sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. You've got to, and that's the hardest thing to teach. Cause like you said, they're quick to respond, to react, to go out and just start turning on something thinking, oh, this rail must be out. Well, no, It didn't change just like that. So anyway.
Well, cool. That's all the memories. Let's see where we at on time. We're at 18 minutes. So we're doing pretty good. This is where I turn it over to you and tell your story, take it back as far as you want to, and all the way to where you're at today.
Well, I go back from grew up in Galveston and worked and went to school and then went to worked for Crown Cork and Seal for 25 years. Learned the can making side of the business, all the way from all the rankings through from logistics to warehousing, quality, production planning. Went through all the ranks and then got into technical services for Crown Cork and Seal. Very good tenure with Crown. Very good to me, good to my company, good to my family. So no complaints there. And I decided to. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit where I wanted to venture out and learn more about the business, going into a lot of the facilities with Crown, learning more and more about the assets, their capital equipment from blending to filling, seaming, going through that process. And I did that for the last 5 years. And last year in 2023 is when I decided to kind of step out the box a little bit and start my own company. When it was a lot of risk involved, and I knew that going into it, obviously, financially, and you're always nervous, even though you build a lot of relationships over the years in the industry.
Most important.
You're always nervous on how the loyalty and how people, stick with you. But I can tell you, I've staying humble and grateful for the last 8 months of this FirstOps Seamer Service. I owe a lot of credit to our team, Couldn't ask for a better team that's out
ShamWow.
there. I'm sorry.
ShamWow.
Yes, and they it's been they I owe a lot of the credit to them over the last 8 months, because we have a different business model, and we've always, I've always felt this way, that our technicians, and it goes back to our Crown days, we were able to mitigate so many different things in the industry because of what those technicians are able to do for our customers. And just not so much on the Seamer side, but even the technical services people, is that you are solution providers for your customer. Tony, you
Yep.
were one of mine years ago.
Yep.
Dealt a lot in the over the years, in the for all the way going back in the Cadbury Schweppes and Dr. Pepper days, and couldn't ask to work with a better group of people. And we learn from each other, but we also try to we support the business, and you learn. I was able to learn and understand your business better, and what it meant so much to keep your assets in good condition and running well. And and I think we've taken that. I will go back a little bit further with one of my first accounts in my when I was in technical services. I mainly handled Anheuser-Busch for many years, and all the facilities that Crown supplied.
Yeah.
And
AB is a big boy in the canning and seaming space.
I,
Lots
I,
of cans,
man,
right?
I will tell you this. Oh, absolutely. There is we would one thing about Anheuser-Busch back then is that they were above the standard, above the bar when it came to quality systems, dotting your I's, crossing your T's. They were very, they made me a better supplier, I would say, and taught
Awesome.
me a lot. And so when I got into the beverage side of the business, it was like I was able to transfer that knowledge over to the beverage side, because they just weren't there yet. Now, obviously, we've evolved a lot further over the years, but I'm talking back probably about 20 years ago, and now a lot of these companies have gotten further into continuous improvement, Lean, Six Sigma, everything else to improve the processes. So, and that's all good, but we've gone through a tough time over the past several years during this post pandemic, and it really took a toll on a lot of these facilities, where we lost they lost a lot of the skills and the aptitude uh, in the industry. And that's what we're trying to with First Ops is, we don't know everything. And I know a lot. I've done a lot of consulting, and I know a lot of process improvements and a lot of projects with different customers, whether doing Kaizen events and things like that. But they've got so many new people coming in nowadays that are just um, uh, they're not getting the necessary training that they need in order to really go out there and improve the process and get that low hanging fruit to be able to increase their efficiencies. And again, it's not to their fault. It's they don't you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah,
So
I don't think it's not only that, it's you have only so many hours in the day. And as a facility manager, as a project manager, even with a new project, with the Seaming project, you just got to have the right people that can give you the right advice in a timely manner. And I think, for me with you, that worked really well in our previous experience. But today's, that's one piece. The second piece is today's workforce, and the skill set and the technical is something that I think is about to be built, but it's not there right now. So,
right.
with those types of things on my mind, like I wanted to spit that out there as you're going through that. And,
Well, it takes that's a lot of people don't want to do that kind of work anymore. Do the
yeah,
things that we do, and
it's kind of hard.
it is. It's very hard, and but it's a hardship. You especially with the way our company is structured. To ask somebody to go out there and be on the road 9, 10 months out of the year.
Yeah, but it's
And
employee owned too, though, right?
that is correct.
That's
That is
pretty
correct.
cool. I don't know a
Well,
whole lot of companies that do that
well, the
for,
whole the whole business structure there was to that again, when you give them ownership to a process or ownership to a company per se, is that they're going to take a lot more pride in it as well.
ShamWow, 100%, man.
Yeah, so they are. They don't go in and they don't just have a particular scope of work that they do, and they look at them. They go in and say, "Oh, this is fixed," and they grab their tools, and the customer says, "Hey, while you're here, you mind checking this out for me?"
They
No,
might actually, because this is a seamer service, they might actually look at the filler. They might actually look at the discharge conveyor and decide, like, okay, now I'm putting 1 and 2 together. I need to be able to deliver and provide a solution and actually take an action on it versus just saying, like, this is somebody else's job because I have that scope of ownership.
no, and you're exactly correct. Exactly correct. I will tell you, and it's taking away any other skills out there. But because we deal with, you learn that seamer and all these different models of seamers, and it's a beast. You're dealing with a lot of tight tolerances and things. If you're able to do work on that seamer, you have the aptitude, even though you're not a filler tech or whatever, like you're saying, any other operation going on in the facility, you can make recommendations for your customer because you have that mechanical aptitude to be able to assist them. And that's what we try to do. But through our resources, because we have well over 100 years of experience on our team right now, and we've been around this operation, so many different filling facilities, is that we can uh, we have a lot of resources out there, and we can make recommendations. We can make phone calls for them, and the customer really appreciates that because one, you want to deal with somebody that you can trust and someone that actually gives a shit, that cares about your business. So
ShamWow. Yeah.
so so.
Yeah, trust is number one. I mean, that's a building block of everything, I think.
That
So
it's exactly correct. And I think that's where, Tony, I will tell you over the last 8 months, like I said, I feel very blessed, and I stay humble and very grateful for everything that comes our way. And we've done minimal advertising, marketing and things like that, and it's a lot of it's been through word of mouth, and it's amazing the responses that we get back. Um, because there's so many there's probably over 4,000 seamers in North America, and and we don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to who the customer chooses to what company they want to go with to as far as the equipment and the assets that they purchase. We just want to be able to support them and service them. So and we're willing
yep.
to learn. I've hired a couple of younger guys now that we currently are training, uh, and to kind of to keep that. Trying to keep this industry going because it is a dying breed.
No doubt about it. Uh, I'm on board with you there. But I think you have the right crew. I've had your crew inside my plant before, and they were awesome. And so why do you call it FirstOps Seamers?
Well, that's when we came up with the name, it had a catch to it, and there's a company out there. Well, I probably shouldn't mention that particular company, but when you think about first ops, and if you ever been through a seaming class, and the first ops is when you do a first stop check on your seamer, that's 80% of your seam. And if you're out of spec, if your countersink or seam thickness is out of spec in that and anywhere in that during that time, you start all over again. So, and I like the symbolic meaning basically from first ops seams because we do work on seamers to your first option seamer service, having us as your first option as well. So I thought it was a really catchy name. I liked it a lot, and it's been good so far. So
Gotcha.
it's a lot to say, and it's a long email address.
I
But
had to look up some. Go ahead.
a lot of people call us FOSS now, and I don't really care for that. But
Boss. Why?
First
Oh,
Stop
okay.
Seamer Service.
Ah,
Yeah, so they just
gotcha.
as the acronym, but it's good.
I had to look up the history of seaming before coming into this episode, and um, tin can patent back in 1810, founded by Peter Durand, with a tin-plated iron type of seam. Um, so that's the name. But double seaming didn't hit until the 20th century. Uh, in
So
World War II, that was a big way of trying to figure out how to feed the troops. And canning was the way. So I always try to tie in some history in these episodes.
no, that's and well, I mean you're when you think about it, we mostly you know me in the beverage side of the world, and but First Ops, we're doing a lot of food as well as beverage. So when you think about everything, every double seam that you kind of go through your pantry and see all the things you have, you can think of them so many different ways, from aerosol cans to food cans to biscuits to um, you get tied into so many different
I've been
most of
eating
your
so
products.
many more canned food items
Mhm.
nowadays than I used to. I'll go
Yeah,
through the can. I'll go through the can aisle, and sometimes I'll catch a can that's like, that's not the right seam. You know.
yeah. Well, you hope not. You hope not on the food side of the business, because
I
you
won't
definitely
name
don't.
any companies, but I know a couple.
No kidding. That's
They might need
interesting.
your service. So,
So no, it's like I said, man. We've had a lot of fun, and I think that's what we try to bring back into the industry for ourselves right now. Is that we kind of control our own destiny and trying to bring packaging fun again, make packaging fun, and we're working together as a team, and we all wear many different hats, and in order to be successful. So, and
nice,
we plan on continuing to scale this company over the years.
awesome, makes sense.
Yes.
Are there any new cool industry breakthroughs that you're seeing out there in canning, or is it same old, same old? What's the newest news out there that can be talked about?
I think you would talk about more about the capital equipment side as far as the competition and the different seamers. The Angelus machine has been around since the 1960s. That's what we mostly work on is Angelus machines. They've been the workhorse of the industry for many years, and it's a good machine. It's a robust
Yeah,
machine. It's not the most hygienic machine, and a lot of the things you see nowadays, and you go to the shows, and they're stainless and shiny and hygienic, and
no. What
um,
matters is speed and reliability.
it's
Period.
reliability, it's sustainability, exactly, and that's
Yeah,
the key. But there's I'd have to say that Ferrum is making a really good big footprint here in the U.S. right now as well,
nice.
or I should say North America. They're doing a heck of a job as well, and
Yeah, one of my mentors swears by the Ferrum.
yeah,
So
they're definitely making their footprint as well. So there's some other companies out there trying to that's mostly that you see in Europe and things like that. But I would say overall in the U.S. we're seeing mostly the it's most. I would still say Angels has the larger footprint, but again, Ferrum is coming is they're moving fast. So
nice.
yep.
And your techs do both.
No, we right now we do have a tech that can work on a ferrum, um, but we will not work on any ferrums until we are actually certified. If ferrum decides to certify us as a service tech, then we will touch them. But other than that, it only affects the customer more when you try to go in. You're only hurting the customer if you go in and you're not certified on a piece of equipment that you
Yeah, totally
uh,
understand that one.
that yeah, because it could
Yeah,
it could affect their warranty. It just creates a lot of problems. So no, we
yeah.
that's not the way I
It slows your customer down. That's what it does.
it does. I would always until we're at that point, I'm going to continue recommending them to go to the OEM. So,
Understood.
yeah.
All right. Looking at bev trends in 2024, hard sodas, wine mixers, whiskey seltzers are becoming a huge thing when it comes to, the beverage industry. What are you seeing right now in your space with those trends? Just
Well,
out of my personal curiosity.
I mean, obviously the RTD world is really it's taken off, and especially when you think about the ages of 21 to 35 year old people, the RTDs are definitely taken off. It's getting more and more competitive as you go along. There's a lot of people coming out with more and more. It's kind of like when the energy drink took off, when Rockstar started up, and then Monster, and then you probably had another. Um, 50 of them come out all of a sudden. They just didn't survive. They didn't survive as well. But there's same thing in the RTD world. What I do see is that, when we talk about market trends, I mean, I would say, and this is just going by reading the Bev trends. I mean, I think
Yeah.
70% of your products are now going into aluminum or going into cans now.
Yeah.
So you see in plastics slowly but surely. I mean, they're just fading away.
Yeah, there's a huge thing with microplastics going on, and like
Hmm.
when you drink bottled water,
Hmm.
getting your blood, and where does that go? It's a huge subject. So the shift to aluminum can totally make sense with a market standpoint. So,
Yeah, and it's yes, yeah. You can't. To me,
but the
you can't beat
whole
the aluminum can.
energy drink uplift doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Actually, no, it totally makes sense. I don't know.
No, I mean that's a huge market, obviously, as well. So it's yeah,
Yeah.
the energy drinks are not going anywhere, and neither are the RTDs. And it's just about who's going to gain that market share.
When you say RTD, what do you mean?
Ready to drink. So any of your hard
Okay.
seltzers, your high noons, all those type of different drinks.
What
So
kind of equipment does that require when you make a ready to drink seltzer?
same equipment.
Same equipment, like what?
Uh,
For
you'll
people
there's
that are listening to this that they have no idea, you know?
I mean, as far as going through the whole process. Yeah, I mean
Just
the only difference from beverage to RTDs, a lot of them are pasteurized. You'll go through either flash pasteurization or tunnel pasteurization.
pasteurization is a heating process,
That is
right?
correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. It'll go through sustaining temperatures around 150 degrees through a pasteurizer
Yeah.
to kill off any of the microorganisms or things like that. And then, but as far as the filling equipment, your filling and seaming equipment is all pretty much the same. Seamers pretty much don't change for us. It's just the difference in the models of whether it's a 6 head, 12 head seamer that they're running through. So
Gotcha.
um, the and then you have a space for there's a big space obviously, and they just recently had the CBC, the Craft Brew Conference, which is obviously huge all over North America as well. When you talk about craft, and there's tons of those
Yeah.
guys out. There's tons of
It's
those
one of
guys.
the like biggest top 10 food companies in America, you
Yeah,
know?
and you talk about you talk about fun. Man, you just can't you the people that you meet in craft. Those guys are just really cool, a lot of fun, and they're really good at what they do. It's
No
it's it's
doubt.
it's amazing, and it just takes one beer that they come out with, or IPA or whatever it might be, and it just takes off, and then you have some big VC
Branding.
come along. Yeah,
Yep.
and I mean, I can name several. I won't name them off. That have just been so successful in the craft world. So, and obviously we love seeing that. And those guys, they start off small. They do a lot of those mobile canners. But if they do start getting into the filling side, I mean, they have I've seen them as small with a one head seam or one beer at a time. They seam in it. So, but small little 4 head seamers and things like that. So, but and you got to work with those guys because they're startup. A lot of those are startups as well. Just trying to support them, the best that you can.
100%.
So
Cool. So, a cool few, 2024 bev trends. Wanted to tap into the hard sodas because it's making a big boom. It's always growing. Couple more questions for you that we wrap this thing up. First one is, what's your biggest struggle today?
Biggest struggle today? Man, that's a good question. Like any other startup company, some of your biggest struggles that you probably be your first one would be cash flow. You want to um, uh, that's because these guys are compensated really well. This is not a cheap service that we provide, and they're very well compensated. So the main thing is being smart with your cash flow, and that's why as a startup company, we're sticking mostly on the service side. We make recommendations on the part side, uh, and we are doing some overhauls as well. So we are selling seamers as well. So uh, which we didn't plan on doing in the beginning, but it just kind of fell into our lap. So, but I would say right now is just kind of that would be probably one of my biggest stresses. I would think the other thing is really trying not to burn your team, to burn anybody out, to try to still have that work
Yep.
life balance, uh, to still take care of the customer because we're in a business that you could be sitting at home on Friday evening and you get a phone call, and next thing you know, you're on a flight somewhere.
Yep.
So you always got a backpack and your tools ready to go, and uh, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. So that
No
you got to,
doubt.
I think that's where trying to be a regional, being a regional company and trying to hire more people across the U.S. to where when we can mobilize quickly for a customer within 24 hours. If we're more regional, they can hop in their car and go, not wait on flights and things like that. So and with that said, is basically that there's and all again trying to mitigate the customer's downtime and mitigate their costs is having if when you're able to do that, they're not spending $5,000 in travel for you to come in and do an hour's worth of work and fix their line and come up and run. So that's a big advantage is when you can obviously be more of a regional company as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I've felt that a couple times when you and I worked together. Like, it was very responsive. So for that, I'm thankful. Um, Last question. What's your price of admission?
Price of admission. I would say at the end of the day, it would have to be results and integrity, Tony. It's is that when they push that button and that machine runs, and they want to that we're getting all the time and money expended to get that machine going, and then um, put into it, it runs efficiently. So I would have to say the results.
Results. Gotcha. Well, cool, man. Really appreciate your time tonight. This is we put this together last minute because we're so busy. But it worked out, and I want to say thanks.
Tony, I appreciate you. Obviously I've known you for many years and always enjoyed working with you. And like I said, it was with the whole entire Dr. Pepper KDP team for many years, and there's still, a lot of people out there that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. So I appreciate all the knowledge y'all shared with me over the years as well. So to make me a better supplier as well. So thank you,
Awesome.
sir.
Cool. Well, take care, and
All right,
thank the fam for your time tonight.
I will do.